Cool.
We are live. Hello, Ryan. Ready for some fun debugging?
Yeah, I mean, I wish we weren't debugging, but here we are. Might as well do something. It needs to be
Yeah. So where we're at right now, for anyone who's been following along with the streams, is last time we were kind of walking through the tutorial that I built out, which gets you to create a wallet and then get some test funds in that wallet. And then when we are trying to create an identity, we're hitting a bit of an error. And actually, I would love to just get your explanation of what is the difference between a wallet and an identity and an address. Those are three things that I think could be a bit confusing, especially for people who've been in the blockchain world and may have certain ideas of what those words mean in a separate context.
Yeah, so I'll back up even further for anyone's sake who isn't already familiar with this. So in Dash, we have two blockchains. We have the core blockchain, which we sometimes call the payments chain. That's a proof of work chain. That's everybody pretty much understands that. And then we also
that is what is creating the currency itself. We have different computers that are mining coins, which is like running math to basically get the coin, and then that gets dispersed to the people who then use it as currency. Anyone who knows anything about cryptocurrency should understand how that works.
Yep. Yeah, and then in addition to the proof of work chain, we also have a proof of stake chain, and it is based on the Tendermint client, the Tendermint consensus algorithm.
Yeah, and then proof of stake is people who already have some money in the currency can basically lock that up for a certain period of time, so then use that to validate. So that removes the need to mine, although it sounds like Dash has a combination of the two.
Yeah, and the reason that's important is none of our, so if you know about Dash already or have interacted with it in the past 10 years, all you really know is the proof of work chain. The proof of stake chain is an addition. Let's call it a side chain. There are different people, different camps with different terminology, but I'm going to call it a side chain. And that's really only running on testnet right now and development networks. So
there's no
on mainnet, there's no proof of stake anything. So this is all development stuff. And so we are running the proof of stake sidechain on our testnet, and sometimes it's up, sometimes it's not. Sometimes the testnet is working for the proof of work chain, the payments chain, but sometimes the testnet chain is down. So actually, let me see if I have the status. Okay, I don't have it in my search history. So let me. I'm going to Discord, and I'm going to the testnet channel. If you don't already know about this, Anthony, it'd be good for you to know.
Let's pull this up, and I'll share my screen for this. And yeah, the testnet channel is what I was debugging in for the last.
Yeah. So we might as well bring that up on the screen so that people can see what we've been chatting about already.
Yeah. So. Okay. Yeah, so this is what we kind of have been walking through. So I had originally been hitting an error. So I first had an error because we weren't on the most recent version of the package. So I updated that. And then there was kind of an issue about synchronizing at the right block height. So we went through that. And then this is what we're currently stuck on, which is what we hit in the stream yesterday, I'm pretty sure. ECDSA signing error, signature failed verification.
And what I was going to bring you here for, before we get too much into that weeds, because I'm still kind of in intro mode. Go click the top of the testnet channel for the channel description, and you'll see not there in the there you go.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, click that. So it opens up.
Yeah, I used to be so fluent at Discord.
Okay, so here's some useful links when dealing with testnet stuff, which is what we're dealing with right now. So we've got the docs there. Open that in a new tab. Go back to Discord now.
It is okay. Yeah. So this goes back to the docs.dash.org. That's what I was.
Yeah. And then when I was talking about we have two blockchains, this is what I mean. We have there's an explorer for both of these chains. So if you go ahead and open all these links.
Okay.
And we'll just talk about it real briefly.
Yeah, so ones we were on last time, we were messing around with Faucet last time, so that one should be familiar to people. And looks like there is something going on.
Yeah, so this is the one that I was gonna bring up just for the sake of explanation, because this is Dash testnet. Go back.
Okay, oh wait, this was hold on. This is November 18th though. Does that mean it's been going on for 4 months?
I don't exactly know. What I'll say about this site is that it's manually updated. But what I wanted to use it for right now is
the most recent ones are all from November.
Yeah, so you can see the major categories. If you go a little slower, if you would. So Dash testnet. This is a network, and the network has nodes, and those nodes are running different software. Part of that software that they're running, you could categorize under Dash Core. That's what I was talking about with the proof of work chain. And you can see under Dash Core, there are several subcategories: Dash General Core, Instant Send. These are features of Core and whether certain features are working or not. So according to this status page, everything on Core in the testnet environment, a network, is functioning. Now on the Dash platform,
so does that mean that are these just like incorrect dates then?
I haven't really even thought about that yet, but I'm still in the Dash platform explaining the different high level. Okay, so Dash platform is a different blockchain, but the same nodes, or actually a subset of the nodes that run the Dash core chain, are running the platform chain. So only a subset, and it's actually a subset of a subset. So in Dash, we have what are called master nodes, and master nodes are a subset of all of the nodes that run the Dash core software. So anybody can run Dash core, both on testnet and on mainnet. But if you're doing that, then there's no requirement. There's no stake requirement to run what you might call a validator in other networks. And typically in proof of stake systems, you have the nodes are called validator nodes because they're not mining necessarily. They are creating coins sometimes. That depends on the emission schedule. But in any case, they are required to have a certain stake to be a valid validator. You have to have, that's why it's called proof of stake. Now on the Dash, in Dash, you have that superset of node operators running the Dash core software. And then a subset of that is what are called master nodes. And these master nodes, still proof of work consensus algorithm, but if you're a master node, you have to have 1000 Dash, either on mainnet or testnet. It's easy to get testnet 1000, obviously. On mainnet, it's more expensive, and that's part of the security model. And then these master nodes are running different services. So if you scroll up a little bit, I can talk about those services. The general core, that's anybody can run that. Instant send, chain locks, and LLMQ components, those are all master node features. So master nodes are what provides the instant send feature and the chain locks feature. And
so it sounds like you can kind of think of those as like higher level APIs that are providing developer functionality.
They're not higher level API. I wouldn't call them a high level API, but the master nodes, they are considered to have more authority on the chain, for example. And when they get together in these quorums, so you'll see LLMQ, that stands for long living master node quorum. So that's even further subset of the master nodes. There's different quorums operating.
Well, okay, can I ask a more general question then? So would the chain function at all without all of these? Like, were these all required to get the whole system to work?
The chain can function without these features. So sometimes you'll see like instant send locks are failing. In other words, for whatever reason, the masternode quorums aren't coming to consensus about whether a transaction should be considered solidified and irreversible. And that would be a scenario where blocks can still be produced and considered valid by normal nodes on the network, but there is something that there is a certain flag that's not set if the instant send feature is not running. Same thing with chain locks. Chain locks, instant send is what secures transactions, and where you see a transaction on the network in the mempool, in the memory pool, and if that transaction has an instant send lock on it, that means even though this isn't in a block yet, this transaction, the network considers this transaction to be secure and finalized, settled. You will not be able to spend the inputs that are used in this transaction for another transaction. So that secures transactions. Chain locks is different. Chain locks secures blocks of transactions. So it's locking the chain and saying, instead of looking at transactions in the memory pool, it's looking at blocks in the blockchain and saying, hey, miners just created a block, and we all see this block and we consider this block to be the canonical valid block for this given height in the blockchain. And if another block comes around and says, I won't get into the details, but it's essentially saying we can't reorganize the chain and have a different block at, say, block height. I don't even know what the numbers are, 500,000 or 1 million or 2 million or whatever the block height is. This is the valid block for this block height, and it cannot be reorganized. So that's what instant send and chain locks are. Again, just a quick recap. Instant send validates and settles transactions, and then chain locks validates and settles blocks of transactions. And these are features that we have in Dash and have had in Dash for a long time, thanks to masternodes. Masternodes being quasi proof of stake, because you have to have 1,000 Dash to run a masternode and then be part of these quorums that do these locks and whatnot. So now, if we go back down to the Dash platform side, again, I'm talking again about the testnet network. This platform is not on mainnet, never has been. We're hoping that will be on mainnet in this year, but right now it's only on testnet. And as you can see,
it gives you 9 months to figure it out. Nice.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been saying this for years.
I just always think it's funny. Like, I've done open source stuff. I remember with Redwood, it was always like, when's V1 coming? And we would give like, a vague time in the future and then hope we got there roughly when we said we did. So I get it.
Okay, so back to my superset, subset thing, where we have nodes on the network, servers on the network. You have the biggest set is the set of people running Dash core, and then you have a subset of master nodes, and master nodes can be running Dash core, and a subset of master nodes would be a master node quorum, and those are what kind of dictate what's happening with different features like instant send and chain locks. And Dash platform is run by a subset of the master nodes called Evo nodes. And Evo nodes, evolution is the name for the Evo. That's where that comes from. Evo nodes are like master nodes, but instead of just running the core services, they're also running platform services. They require a 4,000 Dash stake, so not increased from 1,000 to 4,000 Dash stake or collateral, as it's called sometimes. And then they run all the components of Dash platform. So you can see Dash platform has several components: Drive, DAPI.
Yeah, and DAPI is something that that's a term that I saw a lot as I was going through
Yeah.
the docs to create this, and that's you remind me what DAPI stands for?
Decentralized API.
That's right. Yeah.
Or
And
Dash.
are there places in the docs that we should be going to while we're like running through this stuff? Because like here's like this probably better visualization of what we're looking at right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So I didn't really necessarily mean to get into all the architectural side.
No, this is good. This is good because this is stuff I didn't really know. So that was a great like primer for me for sure. And so I guess what does this have to do with the error I'm seeing?
Yeah. So it was important. It is important to know that there are these two different chains going on. If you don't know that, then you're going to be totally confused when you're doing Dash platform development. Because
what's been useful for me though is I don't think I've ever worked with mainnet because basically you started me off with Dash platform and it was like run from here. So I've only ever existed in this world. So I didn't even know there was a whole like I knew there was because I've been paid in Dash obviously and I own Dash. So I knew there was a separation there vaguely in my head. So this is a good explanation of where that separation actually exists.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know exactly what question got this line of thinking started, but you asked a question. Do you remember what it was? And maybe we can circle back to it at this point.
Sure. Well, basically, it was like, what does the error I'm seeing mean? Was kind of the main question, I guess, for me. So, just to give people, I have a little repro here of what's going on. The actual function we're trying to run is Oh wait, sorry, I do remember now. I was asking what the difference between a wallet and an address and an identity is.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
So wallet is a bit of an ambiguous term. You'll get different answers from different people, but from my perspective, and since the industry has already moved this way for the most part, a wallet is the 12-word phrase that generates a hierarchy of addresses.
Yeah.
And so that's two of those terms. Wallet, I consider the 12-word phrase that can generate lots of different public-private key pairs, including addresses, which is the hash of a public key.
And so that's where we started with. We start with running this create wallet function, which gives you a mnemonic and an address. And so the mnemonic is the wallet, which is what you're referring to right now.
Yes. And then there's the address. The identity thing is the thing that got me going into the big architectural explanation.
Yeah, so it says here they serve as the basis for interactions with Dash platform. So do identities exist outside of Dash platform?
No. Identities
now I see why you needed to go through that whole thing. Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, identities are a Dash platform primitive. It is the basis of all work on Dash platform. So if you want to participate in Dash platform, one of the first things you have to do is have the network give you an identity. And that's what these RPCs are doing client.platform.identities.register is, and when it says client, so what is client? Client is the thing that's contacting with its configuration, contacting Dash platform nodes.
And let me actually real quick, let me go to my tutorial because I have an example of what it spits out when this actually does run. So
while you're saying that, I have to correct something that I said. I said client was something that contacts the Dash platform nodes. That was actually probably one level deeper. The client actually can request information from the core blockchain as well. So that's why there was that sub namespace of client.platform, and client.platform is what's giving you the options of the other things. Okay, so
so this is my code here. It's basically the same. It's just slightly destructured differently. But when you run it and it works, what you get is this identity ID, which is just a bunch of random characters, basically.
And so this is what we're looking at right here is our work from several months ago, like maybe almost a year ago. You did
this was
you pasted in outputs.
Yeah.
So this was working code. And what we're doing now, high level, is we're kind of going back to this you didn't have the tutorial completely written, or at least published.
It wasn't completely written, but up to this point, it was working. So it's like that's why you can see here, like I was able to get an identity ID, which then was able to get me to creating all the other stuff. Like you eventually, then you register a name, and then at that point, I had like actually created one. The retrieve name one I never got working, but that's a separate matter. So basically, I had got it working all the way up to the point I had a name created, like it was AJC Web Dev Test or something.
Mm-hmm.
So this code was working at some point, and then I just got this repro spun up, and I literally just copy pasted the exact code that was in the register and identity here. So basically, this sounds like we need to bump this upstream to see kind of what the error is, because as it's written in the docs, I'm currently trying and still hitting that error.
Yeah. Okay. So at this point, we're now at the point where we've described the context, and we're trying to get the tutorial back to a working condition. There's been lots of changes for Dash Platform since this tutorial was originally written. So we're trying to get it to work again. And I personally, my goal is that the docs always work in a absolute don't make me think way. And so if something's not documented, we need to make an issue for that. And my first question is, do we need to, if we scroll up to the top or to the beginning of this tutorial on dash.org, does it document the minimum requirements? And do we meet those minimum requirements for the version of Node that we're running? So it looks like it does require Node version 20. So that's my first question is, are you running Node version 20?
Yeah, 20.12.0.
Okay. So that's met. The Dash JavaScript SDK.
That's what we were going back and forth with to make sure we were on the right version. So right now, I had originally been trying on 3. whatever, but now we're on 4.0.0 dev.9, which is the
latest release that I know.
That's the latest thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There may be other. I'm looking at my GitHub notifications just to make sure. That does look like the latest release.
And actually, it has it the way it's written here. I just want to see what this is actually going to do, because I didn't run it like this. So if I were to remove this dependency and then install it like this, let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. Because you had a .9 there, and who knows if that's.
I think what this is going to do is this is kind of like running at latest, but they have it in their own kind of weird bespoke way. So yes, that is like running at latest, and it just gives me exactly what I already had there. So that's good. Nothing wrong there.
Yep.
I guess the only thing that might be different is I have ESM instead of require. So I guess I should probably get that changed just so we're like absolutely like line for line exactly the same.
Yep. Yeah. Do you know offhand what version of Node gave ESM support?
A long time ago, either 16 or 18 for sure. So that's not an error. That's not necessarily an issue. But the thing that happens is it makes like, so I have to go back and now remove type module from my package.json for this to actually work. And
while you're doing that, I'm going to go get a drink water. So
yeah, I need to get .env back in ESM version, which I haven't done in a while. Okay. I believe it's going to be this require .env.config instead of that. Worst comes to worst, I can go off screen and just hard code the numbers as well. Let me close all these up. Okay. Okay, that should be good. And then now this needs to be, let's see. to do now. I'm going to hop off screen just real quick because I want to get my chat GPT up and want to make sure all my message history is not showing.
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I'm hoping this gives us the same error, because that would be very surprising to me that the import syntax would change the functionality.
Yeah, it definitely should not. So this is it's a good thing to just find out.
And if so, part of what we could do either off stream or on stream is update the docs, because you tell me
it would be nice to get them in ESM.
Yeah, it seems like the industry has moved on from require syntax.
They're trying their damned hardest, let me put it that way. Okay. I think that is all. Let's just see what happens now when we run this guy. Oh yeah, I was. So let me make sure.
It changes a lot, doesn't it?
Corrects my work over here as well. Yeah, it's because you have the imports and the exports. So it's just I haven't done this conversion backwards in so long. I've always done it forwards,
Mm-hmm. And we're on step 1 of the dash.org tutorial, right? So it might make sense to just like copy it straight up exactly from the Dash documentation.
Yeah. So I guess the difference is you don't have a separate client file. So let me go ahead and do that. So I need to go to here and register. Yeah, so I'll just copy this whole thing. And then I could run it actually hard-coded, but I feel like I probably should do that off screen so no one messes with, because you gave me so much test dash. I feel like it's valuable now.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to think nobody's stealing testnet coins. That's silly, but
right. Yeah, let me just real quick. I will pop it in and then just like scroll down, just so no one messes with it. Okay. So now I'm running it and we will see what happens. Drum roll.
Do you want to drop a link to the tutorial in the chat just so that people can?
Sure.
Both the dash.org one and your GitHub one.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. It's now slightly different. Header metadata was not found during the Merkle block processing. That is not an error I've seen at any point that we've been doing this. So maybe kicking back to required did do something different.
Let's see. Okay,
What's
so that is interesting. That is really interesting. Oops. I'm also just playing around with the StreamYard thing. Let's see, copy. Okay, so now I'm finally getting around to looking at this error here.
Oh, let me actually. Hold on. I think I did something wrong. I think because I think I only halfway did the environment variables. Or no, actually no. It says testnet here. Okay, never mind. That's not what I thought it was. Okay, so yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, let's look at the screen again.
Yeah. So my first thought always is to just see what ChatGPT has to say about it. Usually with very bespoke errors like this that are like specific to a project, it doesn't really know what to do, but it might give us some useful insight.
My first inclination is to read it. Let's see.
I did read, and I don't know what it means, so I've already read it.
I hadn't, but I
so
trust you to say you have.
Header so I guess the question would be, what does the header metadata have to do with the Merkle block processing? Which is like a question that I cannot possibly answer with my current knowledge of the chain.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Well, where is it coming from? What?
So it's just coming from trying to run create identity.
No, I mean, so wallet lib, I'm just looking at the stack trace.
Yeah, gotcha.
gRPC looks like this. I've seen gRPC errors a lot, more than I'd like to.
Mm-hmm. This error typically indicates a problem related to blockchain data synchronization or integrity when using dashes. Wallet libraries can occur for several reasons: network configuration, wallet configuration, node connectivity, dependencies. Yeah, most of this stuff we've already tried.
Yeah, what I want to focus on here is not necessarily debugging it, but just making sure that we've met the prerequisites for.
All it is the node version and the dependency version. Those are the only requirements included in the docs.
And then you just copied and pasted. You just copied and pasted the code.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
Expand the line 17, the client options.
Yeah, that's where my mnemonic is.
Okay, so we got a testnet network. We got a wallet that has valid mnemonic. And then is this skip synchronization before height? Was that part of the tutorial? The docs?
Yeah,
docs?
So that's in the docs. Yeah, the one we were given in the Discord was slightly different. Do you want me to try that one as well?
How was it different?
It was a different number. It was different. Okay. Yeah.
Same API, but different number.
Yeah, it was 99000 instead of 875000.
Okay.
Let's see what happens. Hopefully it'll do basically the same thing.
That warning, by the way, that you see there, that's been there for a long time, and
that one shows up for the commands that even work. Okay,
this looks like it was a success.
Hey, look at that. So that's what needs to be updated in the docs then.
Well, yeah, that, and I want to know why, what difference is that making? Because it's obviously it's just changing what block it starts synchronizing at. And my guess is that it needs to be after the latest version was deployed or something like that. Let's see, only sync from mid 2023. That's what the 900.
Sorry, that's where we got two things going on here. Okay. That's from this. when he gave me that, he just had a number saying this.
And my guess is this has to be a reference to
That's
the
wrong.
core blockchain height, not the platform blockchain height, because platform gets restarted all the time on testnet. When the DCG devs make a new release, sometimes that requires them to basically start the platform blockchain over again from zero. So there's no way that it's getting up to that height that fast. So I'm guessing that that's referring to a block, a core height. But I'm just going to open Insight and see if that's in the realm of Insight.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'm going to basically go back to my original code and then do that with the correct config and make sure that still works.
Yeah. Oh, and I need to look at this on the testnet. Testnet Core Explorer. There we go. And here's our familiar SPV client error that we saw before.
Sorry, what does that mean?
Well, it's not. I'm just saying this is an error that we've seen before. This empty SPV chain. Have we not seen this?
I haven't seen this yet.
Was this not the error that you ran into earlier? I noted that it was something related to SPV.
Interesting. Let me see.
Yeah. You said in Discord.
Right, yeah, that is a different error though. This was chain contains orphan chunks. That was the previous SPV error, whereas now it says empty SPV chain. So it's not quite the same error.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what is up with that.
At dash evo / dash SPV. SPV chain.js. Yeah. And once again, like I don't want this to be like a big debugging session necessarily, but
sure. Yeah, I just need to know these things because I might need to go back and basically retrofit my tutorial to make sure that it works. And I want to see where it works and where it doesn't with what the code I've currently got, you know?
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be a huge lift, I don't think.
So, and we are we back to, looks like we're back to import statements, if I'm not mistaken.
Seems like it, yeah.
No, like you changed it. Did you change it
yes,
back?
Yeah. So yes, so
okay.
The code I've got in my example is using ESM, yeah. So basically, and I've got it separated with a client in one file. It needs to be imported. And then that itself is using ESM to import the Dash library and the .env. So there's kind of so if I wanted to walk this back, I would take out the .env, and then I would take out the import statements for require to try and narrow it down.
Yeah. So what we found out then,
offline.
What we found out then was that it wasn't changing it to require that fix things. It was changing.
Correct.
Sync.
This is all we had to change. This single variable was what was breaking it. Yes. Okay. So for the actual docs where they need to be fixed, this number needs to be updated, and then this example works as written.
Okay. Now I'm going to put you in the developer's seat where, partly because I don't know the answer to this question. This isn't just a trivia thing, but let's say that you want to help out and create an issue. Do you know where to do that? Are the docs
right here? So I clicked GitHub here, and then there's docs.platform, which is this. So
okay,
if this is what I would assume is where we would want to open the issue.
Yeah, and I would probably say maybe even move straight to a PR instead of an issue.
Yeah, exactly, because I already know what needs to be fixed. So I would fork it, push the change, and then do you want me to go through that process right now, or do you want to call it here and maybe do that offline? Because literally it's just normal fork open PR.
I
Someone's going to
think
have
we
to
should do
review
it.
it.
I think we should do it right now.
Okay. Great.
It's not a big one. That's the least,
Yeah, no,
that's
let's
a
do it.
very
I'm
simple
down.
change. So
I can even do this. I can do this straight through the GitHub UI.
Yeah. So
So
just
I'll
in case
fork
other
it.
developers are watching this and want to go
Yeah.
through the same process, then they'll at least be able to see this, how to do it.
So I guess here's the question though. If I'm updating it in this one place, this is a single. I think this is going to be in all of them.
Yeah, and honestly,
so for this is also why I think having your client ops in its own file that is separate from every single example is useful for this. This is an exact example of why I keep mine separate in its own file.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be a bigger PR that we probably wouldn't want to do on stream, but that might be a worthy PR because of that exact thing. I'm also.
I guess here's my question. So there's two things I could do here. I could basically do a control find for every example of this and replace them all and do a PR for that, or I can propose the larger change of extracting out the client into its own section.
Yeah. I think that it would probably make. How many times does this occur?
Every single one of these examples has the client in it.
Let's propose the change that separates it out, like your tutorial, because I think that is the better way to go.
Okay, for that, I'm gonna have to kind of actually write that out in human language. So I don't think that's the best use of our time to do.
Probably not a good stream thing. You're right.
Yeah, but I'm happy to do that right when we get offline.
I don't know. To me, that client option should not break anything. I'm not.
That's the control. That's where because that's where it actually connects to the chain. That's the most important part.
Yeah. I'm actually walking that back now because that is where the new
that's where I'm doing most of my debugging when stuff is broken. Even thinking back to last year when stuff would be broken, the first thing I do is go to the client, make sure I got my right mnemonic, make sure I'm synchronized with the right part of the chain. So really having to sync with a certain part of the chain to get it to work or not, that's the fundamental problem that needs to kind of be worked out here.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying is to me, it doesn't seem like the developer should have to worry about that.
Yeah, it's a very high level thing that has to do with the idiosyncrasies of the chain itself, and why would you need to sync to this part of the block and not another? This type of thing that you usually don't have to think about with other chains,
Exactly. Yeah. And
I guess let me correct that. This is something that I do know has to be thought about, but is usually thought about at the level of the infra, not the developer. Because I remember when I worked at QuickNode, there were specific chains that would give you the full history, and then cheaper chains that gave you part of the history.
Yeah, the archive nodes versus the full nodes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this is only a testnet issue. This probably wouldn't happen on a mainnet, but it is still a little bit annoying. Because when I looked at that option, the first thing I thought was this just helps speed up synchronization.
And that's what I thought too. Yeah, it should just make your commands run faster. But as we're seeing here, it actually is a functionality issue.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, we learned something. I think we made progress here.
Progress, and I think we ran into errors again. We could go back and we could try to debug that next error with the SPV if we really wanted to, because according to Dash Money on the Discord, he's not running into errors that we're running into, and I don't know why.
And is he using the SDK?
Yeah. So one thing that we could actually move on to, depending on how much time you have and how much time we want to spend on this.
Yeah, infinite time. I'm unemployed, remember?
Okay. No, you're employed. You're employed with Dash right now.
Right.
As loose as that term is. But I think it would probably be a useful exercise to try to get Dash Money's site up and deployed. Or
you're talking about the V repo he dropped?
Yeah, because I don't think that's ever been shown on a stream. I know.
Well, here's the problem though. I looked at that, and we need a working identity ID to get that working first. Which actually, I guess we got.
Well, no, his code should do that for you.
Okay, well then let's.
So whatever differences in his
and
code.
I'm remembering we did fix the issue eventually, so we did actually end up with an identity ID, so we should be good.
The first thing that we should do is let's go ahead and pull up a web browser and then go to his site. I want to highlight this because it's one of the only.
I didn't know this. So this is it looks like this is only about 3 months old anyway. So this is something that was built that was very similar in terms of like adding a React front end is kind of what I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, he even has actual applications on here. And
no, this is great. This is super cool.
That link that you just clicked, though, go back there because I want to make sure. I want to look at that URL. Dash Money IO Vercel app. That is not the app that I know of, and I don't know which one's more up to date. So he might have to update his metadata on this.
Do you have a link for the one you know of?
Yes, I think it's dashmoney.io.
Dash dot or
just dashmoney.io.
Okay. Oh, it looks like this. Oh, okay. So this is just the Vercel link that goes to dashmoney.io. It's the same thing. It's what's happening here is the GitHub has a link to the Vercel deployment, and then on your Vercel account, someone has mapped this domain to the correct one.
That could be it, but that's most likely what it is. But in theory,
sure. I use Vercel. I'm pretty sure that's what's happening.
Okay. We could maybe check his GitHub actions or something to see if there's any.
We would check his deployments right here.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
That's going to here. So this is also the longer URL. Yeah. That's what's happening. Cool. Okay. So do you want me to put my account login here?
Well, no, I don't want to use the app necessarily. Well, I guess we could just to demo to people what we're working with, and what we're going to spin up. But eventually,
clone it down.
I want to have you clone it down and then launch it as your own.
Let's do it. Let's make sure we're going through the README. So it says first, copy the repository. Connect to copy to. Yeah, so he's saying here he uses Vercel, add environment variables and domain name to hosting service. Yeah, this is giving you like the full instructions in terms of if you actually want to deploy this thing as well. And then these are the 4.
That's exactly what we're trying to do. So he's got good documentation. That's good.
Okay, so we need to. Yeah, so one thing I would recommend is having a .env.example file that you could basically copy this from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in our deployment, I don't know if you have a Vercel account or if you want to use that, but I actually would almost prefer to try to get it working without a Vercel account, because in theory,
so
these environment variables, like I know this is deployment is a tricky topic. So
yeah, deployment. If you wanted to actually, I could get you a decentralized front end. If you really wanted one, I could do that. It would be a lot more work than getting it on Vercel, but I know how to do that.
No, I'm not necessarily talking about decentralized front end like IPFS versus Vercel. I'm just talking about. This is a single page application using React, and we should be able to just deploy it through GitHub Pages, for example.
I guess, but then you need a GitHub account.
Yeah, I mean, we could do it in different ways. So if you have a Vercel account and you want to do that, then let's do that.
Yeah, I guess.
I just don't like. I don't like applications that depend on a platform.
But you're depending on GitHub though. So is that just, you already have to depend on GitHub, so I guess it still removes the thing you have to depend on.
I just gave GitHub as an example.
But what would be, so then I'm asking you then,
spin up your own VPS, for example.
How would your own, what's DPS?
VPS, virtual private server.
Yeah, but that's not simple, no.
I know.
And then you're doing that. I mean, most people who would do that, they would use Amazon, so then they're creating an Amazon account. It's like you're literally talking about racking your own server Like,
Mhm.
I guess you could technically do that, but like, who realistically is going to do that?
Yeah, it doesn't matter really to me. I wanted to discuss it a little bit because it is one of those things where, like, we were talking about this a few days ago in the Dash Discord, because somebody had, one time was his name. He had an idea for an application, of building like a poker app that was decentralized and,
Yeah, we talked about this last time. Yeah.
yeah, and it is a rabbit hole that we probably don't want to go down. Let's do one thing at a time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, deployment it's its own subject in general, and like I I think this is interesting, and like I've worked at deployment companies, so like
Yeah.
this is something that I feel like I have a pretty good handle on. So that's why my brain first goes to IPFS, because that's like that you're not creating an account. Like that is something where it is basically you could just spin up a CLI and hit it and like get a URL with a deployed thing. So I think for what you want, that makes the most sense from my brain.
It's not what I want. It's what I think. It's what some people think is necessary to have,
Sure.
Dash
Yeah.
application.
Yeah. And I think that's great. And there's a reason why I went through the process of learning how to do that a while ago, because I do think it actually makes a lot of sense to not have to depend on a Vercel. I just think using a GitHub Pages, to me, that's in the same ballpark as using a Vercel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing at a time. Let us
Yeah.
do it, using Vercel, since that's already documented. And then after our discussion on Monday,
let me go back then. I'm going to fork this first then, since we're actually going to deploy this. Yeah.
Monday, we're going to be talking on Incubator Weekly. We're going to be talking about IPFS, among other things. So maybe after that, we can then do this process again, and host it on IPFS, and then compare and contrast and discuss. But for now,
yeah.
We'll just
it would be an interesting exercise, and really, it's the type of thing where your README could just give a couple options, be like, if you want to do this, do this. If you want to do this, do this, and then you can kind of leave it up to the user, you know.
Yep. And then,
I think that's always the way to go.
While you're doing this, I have a few other things to say, just for context. So what we're doing now is we're cloning down, and we're going to deploy, the Dash Money application to our own URL that we would control this application. And the reason that we're doing this right now is I want to get his code up and running to show us that he's actually getting his code is working, or maybe it's not. But his code is theoretically working, to get identities and making contracts and all the stuff that was in our tutorial. It is actually working for him. So let's look at, what different options he has, or maybe we find out that this doesn't work for us either, and that there's something else that's preventing us from getting it to work. But yeah, if we can get his up, then in theory we should be able to get our tutorials working as well. Okay, so we're already on localhost. This is great.
Okay, so should I try and log in?
Yeah, let's open the developer console, and see what's happening. Let's see how many logs he's got going on.
And V100, and then there's just this empty array. I'm not sure what that's doing.
Okay. I don't know. We could check, because does it have source maps? Let's see.
It's an app.jsx, so it's going to be right here. Console logging. Oh, a shitload of things. 525 console logs.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not sure exactly what this is. A very, very large app.js. So I'm not sure I would even know what the hell to do with this, honestly.
Okay, wait. Let's. How many lines is this?
15,000.
Is this just one big app, one big file, and that's where all the application code is?
I mean, there's all these components as well.
Okay, so lots of components. This is a big app.
Yes.
App.js is 15,000 lines. Wow.
It's also a class component. Good for you, whoever built this.
Good for, I don't know. I'm not a cloud guy myself. Okay, so let's go back to the logs and see what that was logging out. So that was
what I'm saying. I'm not really sure because when I controlled F console, it has 525 things. So,
and it doesn't show you the line that is it showing you the line of the compiled?
Let's see. Oh yeah, sorry, 1011.
Yeah.
Great. So that's our keys.
Okay, that's what I thought it would. That's what I thought it would be, because something like that, because we haven't actually got our mnemonic yet. So let's have it create one for us.
Cool. There we go. So then we're gonna copy this, and let me save both of these. So then what do I do with? So I guess I want to log in then. So this is cool. This is like a lot of what I probably was going to have end up building. So I'm glad I know this exists.
Yep.
So now send funds.
Yeah, this is a good reference application.
No, this is super solid.
I do want to get it. I do want to get to a point where we have a good tutorial, like a good single page tutorial that's basically very similar to the Dash.org docs, but well, ultimately maybe we could make the Dash.org docs closer to your tutorial, like we were saying earlier, where it's split between files and whatnot a little bit better.
So this is how I've tried to use the faucet. Is I put my address in, hit get coins, and then it just kind of hangs.
Yeah, there's a problem with the faucet website. You got the coins, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Just check the Explorer.
Yeah.
The testnet Explorer.
So yeah, this
you're not gonna find it there yet.
So yeah, so how do I?
Go to Insight testnet.
I know how to find it because I have it written in my own tutorial, but I can never find it by Googling it for some reason.
Yeah, well, Google's not going to pick up testnets for Dash, especially.
That makes sense. So it's currently confirming the transaction.
Yeah. Okay, so you got the coins.
Yes, I did. And then let me close out. I got too many tabs open. Let me close these out. I'm still confirming.
Oh, it doesn't need to confirm to move on. Let's keep going on with the application.
Okay, so then what's the next thing we do then?
So yeah, and this stream isn't meant to be like a full exploration of.
Oh, here we go. All right, register identity. Cost, great.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
A bunch of errors happening in the console there. I wonder what that.
But we did get it.
Yeah.
Okay, and now we're gonna buy a name.
So the identity. So the takeaway with that last step was that the identity creation worked in his application. So whatever his application is doing, we need to do that same thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm assuming. Actually, well, let me just.
So like we could look at his client options, for example.
Let me just check this real quick. Okay, so here's the create identity. Huh. Okay, so I'll just have to kind of break down this code and see because this is already involves some Reactisms. It's like setting state and all that.
Well, yeah, that we're not going to actually break that down because like I'm not particularly interested in exploring exactly how, like, what his application code is doing. I want to know what his client options are, for example, that's getting his create identity to work over the network, but ours is not working. Like all that set state stuff is just his business logic.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you mean. Yeah. So we would have to figure out where that is in this application.
Yep.
Okay. So let's try this.
Maybe you could do a find for client opts or client options.
Yep. There you go. Well, it shows up a lot of times though. So check platform only login. So I mean, it looks like it's just doing offline mode and then setting the mnemonic. But it also looks like there's 256 versions of this variable, so we need to figure out what the base one is.
Wow. That's interesting. Can you scroll through them? Yeah, just like cycle through.
Yeah, it just shows up all over the place. So it looks like he's creating a client object each time he's doing a function, and then all of those are taking the doc array.
So maybe
I feel like so. Could we get the person who built this on stream? Like that would actually help a lot.
That's the problem.
Do you know who built this?
I don't know him. He's an anon. He's an anonymous guy on the internet.
Great. Okay, we can at least like.
He's clearly.
This is the same person who was on the Dash Money account.
Yeah. He's available over text.
Okay, well I know how to message him at least. Okay, well I'm gonna need to actually go through this code and try and make sense of it then before we start bugging him. But is there anything else you want to do like from here? Because it sounds like we've got a working application and we hit the point that we were hitting an error, and so we're kind of like where we want to be, it seems like.
Yeah. I wanted to see that running locally, we could get his code to connect to the network, and
I wouldn't worry about deploying this. I don't think that's really going to change. We don't
need to deploy anything necessarily. I just wanted to see that it was working, and it's too bad that he's got, how many was that, like hundreds of client option instances? Yeah,
256.
So that's something that is not gonna. I mean, we could look at like click handlers on the actual application and see what lines of code he's calling on certain clicks, but
really what needs to happen is this application needs to be broken down into hooks. Like that's the problem, is that it's a giant ass like class component, and that's just kind of a problem with old school React.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say it's good or bad, but what I want for our tutorials is the absolutely slimmed down version of bare bones hello world that goes through each of them. So it might be useful to try to, dig into things, but it might be just as good to work from our tutorial forward and try to handle, debug that way. It's, we can take it from both angles and try to get it. But my point is not necessarily to, my point is to get hello world applications first in Node, and then vanilla JavaScript, like we've done, and just basically get our tutorials working. And if the Dash Money app can help us do that, great. But it looks like it might even be harder to follow that line, that code, than to just debug from our code. So I think that's probably, we've gone an hour or so. I think we learned some things, we showed some things, and we can probably continue off stream to do, or you can just continue off stream, and then we can stream again once we have done some off stream debugging. If we get past some errors, and maybe somebody can help us out, like in
currently where I'm at, I just need to refactor some of my tutorial to get it to work with the current state of the docs with the right synchronization, then we can move forward from there. So like I know exactly where we can go from here.
Yeah, cool. So I think that's a good place to stop then. Unless you have anything else to say, I guess we'll.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. This is super fun. I learned a bunch.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, me too. I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Are we gonna do? Well, you want to do the same time next Tuesday?
We don't have to wait till Tuesday. We don't have to even schedule these things. So in terms of coding, AJ,
maybe we should aim for like
on
Friday then.
I
think that would be good for me.
Yeah, whenever you have time, we'll just you can hop on. We'll get you set up so that you can hop on whenever.
I can. I'm already set to.
You're already set to just go live whenever.
Cool. So that's a good idea. I think next time I go live, I don't need you here because I can start working through my tutorial and just kind of retrofit it with the stuff we know that works, and then we'll see how far I get. And we'll go from there. I'll probably do that Thursday or Friday. Yeah, and you can decide for yourself how much you want to work offline versus on screen. I kind of prefer more on screen. No, I agree. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I was watching my old streams earlier to try and like remind myself what was going on. I was like, man, I'm so glad I streamed this because it was very, very useful to go back and watch. So totally,
and I think it helps other developers as well. Because what I don't like is I don't like all of the knowledge about like, oh, this is the trick that you have to do for this setting.
Yeah, and you just message just one person to figure it out. It is a bit of an issue. Yeah,
I want it all open source. Yeah, so
cool, awesome, man. Well, let's head off, and we'll catch you all next time.
Peace.